Is this on? Yeah, you can hear me. This is extraordinary. Extraordinary place, extraordinary people, extraordinary opportunity. It is as good as it could ever get in my mind. And I've been doing this for 45 years. And to come and be part of this, it almost brings tears to my eyes how beautiful this is. So we, as Kathy and I, have worked together for over 40 years, and we have traveled the world over, working on many projects, but also taking very special time to look at places in great depth. And it's this exhibition really drew out what we had been doing for so many years, because we could take 3 or 4 weeks and cull the images, look through them, see what they meant, and develop these little stories that we hope you'll get a sense of how important this whole exhibit is, because it's about the social life. When we were here 3 weeks ago with Ramon, we didn't have the title, but as we started working on it, we began to realize that the best places had the most social life to them. So now, where's my... This helps. So I have such a strong belief in people. And when we started working, we wrote a book called How to Turn a Place Around. And the first principle was the community is the expert. And I have never strayed from that. And that every human being really is innately a placemaker. They just need to be brought into the possibilities of being able to shape their lives in a good way. And that they are all attracted to good places. We all are, and we thrive in them. And then people are deeply nourished by the process of creating wholeness. Everyone wants this. So we're not going against the grain. It's that there are so many people out there that don't get the absolute deep meaning of what place and placemaking is, except everyone does, in a way. So placemaking, place governance, mobilizes communities, cities to define their future. It adds purpose and foundation to people's lives. It adds ownership and value. It supports innovation, entrepreneurship. It allows local wisdom and common sense to thrive. And it's community-based, holistic, and inclusive. Basic needs at every level, and the outcomes are enormous and can be done quickly. So I was this dumb kid who came from Massachusetts to New York, and New York was in a state of real decay, and I didn't know what I couldn't do. So I started a street academy called ABLE, Academy for Black and Latin Education. I'm not Latin and I'm not Black, but it was about community organizing in a neighborhood near where I lived. And then I organized Earth Day in 1970, and it was, we worked around Union Square and did this amazing event, but it was also a day where we closed Fifth Avenue, and everyone came out. And on Earth Day 1970, April 22nd, this was a scene in New York. It was the biggest worldwide demonstration ever, but no one knew they were demonstrating. There were about 100 people probably who knew it was Earth Day. So the next day, this picture went around the world and showing that millions of people were out celebrating Earth Day. So it was the fake news, the first big fake news story that took place. So then I was somehow I got connected with all these people, because there was so much energy around creating change in cities. And each one of these people were people that I got to know or to work with or became acquainted with. And you may not know who they are, but they were the foundation of the placemaking movement at a critical time in the history of cities around the world. And I think we're there again today, and this speaks to what the future is going to become with people leading it like you. So Margaret Mead was a professor of mine at Columbia University, and never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So that's us. That's what we're here to do. Jan Gehl, nothing in the world is more simple and more cheap than making cities that provide better for people. It's so true. It doesn't take that much to make this place great. And look what happened right here. What Ramon and his team did was take a place that was almost a desert and turned it into a great destination. And I don't want to hear about green buildings anymore. Sustainability is simply an extension of the technocratic society we find ourselves in. And I put that up because what we're really saying is, yes, we need technology. That's a given. But we really need is, does the building generate life? Does it support its context? Built cultural, historical, social, economic place? Does it support people in their comfort? The city at eye level? That's what all architecture should become about, not just a sustainable green building, but it has to also generate life. And then Holly White, the person that Kathy and I worked with, who wrote The Social Life of Small Urban Spaces, the foundation that we're setting up, the Placemaking Fund, and it's the effort is around the Social Life project, and it comes from our work with Holly White and his Social Life of Small Urban Spaces. So he said, and I go back to this in my mind all the time, he just said it's hard to create a space that will not attract people. What is remarkable is how often it's been accomplished. And it just keeps going on and on and on, and we've got to stop that and turn it around, because it's also hard to create a space that will attract people. What is remarkable is how seldom that has been accomplished. And this is Harvard University, where we created a plaza. So if you want to see a place with activity, put out food, especially ice cream and French fries. And you'll notice that the only person that isn't eating ice cream here is that little kid. And then I took the next picture, and there he is, telling me he knows that I know when he's not having ice cream. And then one of the best things about water is the look and feel of it. It's not right to put water before people and keep them away from it. You know her toe is going in and out of that water. Right there, and we're doing this, Ethan, and this, and this, and this. You know, the pleasure people have, they have to touch it. They have to be near it. They have to, and that's this pool, this water pool right out here is about that and why that was put in. And then this is a record where people take all their shoes off and put it in the water. And then benches are artifacts. You know, one of the biggest changes you can make is think about seating, because it's a fundamental need and no one really understands the impact seating can have. You can put these benches that are perching benches that you don't spend much time on, or you can create a place where everyone needs to stop and be part of that. A long bench is very different than a short bench. Even a good place to sit in the rain, people will stay there. This is the best bench we've ever seen in the world. Look at all the little groups. And you know what's going on here? Some people are listening to the people next to them and what they're talking about. So it's a tremendous amount of connections and passion and passion and passion and passion. So architecture is frozen music, urban planning is composition, and placemaking is improvisational street performance. Nate, I know you like this. So when I started working with Holly, I had the pleasure of studying street life. And one of the things that I did is there's a wastebasket right here, and I studied the day in the life of a wastebasket. And what was so interesting is that I was doing this time lapse, and a person came along and he took a newspaper and put it into the throat of the wastebasket. And then another person came along and tried to get it out, and then another person came along and took it. So that it was sort of recycling right there on that street corner. But then this woman came running across the street, and she said, "Get back! Get out of there! You gotta let people put waste in that." Someone had put a briefcase on it, was working on it. And then this storefront is next to a bank, and see how the window is canted so that people walking north can see in that window. Well, I went into that storefront and I talked to the owner of it, and I said, you must like your location because there's 39,000 people walking by. And he said, no, I don't. And I said, why? Because I'm next to a bank, and people start walking faster as they go by the bank, and it takes them 2 or 3 storefronts to get to where they start window shopping again. So it's these little, this is the social life of a street and how that works or doesn't work. And then this is New Haven, where these same stores, some of them are still there, but we widened the sidewalk and created a place at the intersection. This is radical, getting the traffic engineers to narrow the lanes to 9 feet and creating this space here created this intersection as a destination. I'll come back to that at the end. So Jane Jacobs says intricate minglings of different uses in cities are not a form of chaos. On the contrary, they represent a complex and highly developed form of order. So complexity is what we need to strive for, and we need to let complexity embellish the places that we're in, because that's what people are attracted to. But we have this obstacle. Everywhere we go, it's the silos. And we have spent the last 70 years of educating ourselves, building our disciplines, building our own audience that supports those disciplines, and then acts as every group here has to be part of reviewing a plan or a project, and as a result, nothing gets done. So what we're saying is we've got to accelerate the idea of things happening, of making things happen, doing what we call a lighter, quicker, cheaper. And this was one of these social life projects that we discovered in Munich, where this tree guard, we thought it was just a tree guard. Well, in the morning, these 2 stall holders put these boards out, which are probably the ugliest seating you've ever seen. But then what happens is people sit on it, they buy their drink, and they talk. And on this side is a soup place. And so these 2 places are operating totally connected and benefited by this particular kind of seating. And so people sit there and watch, and then people just have these casual conversations on this little thing. So at Harvard, we did this one thing where this was Harvard Yard for 375 years with nothing on it. And then all of a sudden, this happened. So that's a lighter, quicker, cheaper activation. It took 1 day, some planning, but 1 day to get it to happen. And then this place here, a landscape urbanist came in and designed these, quote, ergonomic benches, but we needed bean bags to make them work. And then to get it to this, so that it became the place to be on Harvard University campus. Detroit was another one where Detroit used to be like this 100 years ago, and then it became this, totally emptied out. And in 2013, we announced a placemaking plan for downtown Detroit. It looked like that then, and 3 months later, we had made it look like this. So we took something from nothing to something extraordinary in a short period of time. And that's what placemaking in lighter, quicker, cheaper is. We put a beach in, games, and a piano. Making it happen, streets as places. If you can develop and design streets so they're wonderful, fulfilling places to be, community building places, attractive for all people, then we will successfully have designed about 1/3 of the city directly, and will have had an immense impact on the rest of the city. There's nothing more impactful than making streets work for communities. And Donald Appleyard showed that people had far more friends with lighter traffic. And as more traffic came in, there were fewer connections. So the streets, in a sense, destroyed the community life. And then this Hans Monderman said, if we want vehicles to behave like a village, build a village. So if you design your community around cars and traffic, you get more cars and traffic. And then you get situations like this where these 9 ladies were trying to get across the main street in Sydney, Australia, and we call it a public display of affection. But you go to Buenos Aires and they take the street and they make the sidewalks and the corners work. And so the street becomes less and less important and the corners become better. So when you design your community around people and places, you get more people and places. And you get characters, which make it even more interesting. So I have a proposal for us, for all of us, is to go and get a bench on 1,000 corners in a year. Because by putting a bench on the corner, you are making a big statement. It's about people first. It's about starting at the corners and then having the impact throughout the block. Because if you work from the corners, you're actually challenging the traffic engineers who have controlled the intersections for 50 years without paying attention to the fact that it's really people who they're serving, not cars who they're serving. So this is a paradigm shift that if we can do that, and we're finding that we've seen about 4 or 5 places in the world where there actually is seating on a corner. And so we need to take that and really move forward that, because it will make traffic engineers furious. So you all are clearly zealous nuts. You're visionaries with a poorly developed sense of fear and no concept of the odds against you, and you can make the impossible happen. So that's what we all are. We don't know what we can't do because we know that there's something bigger than any one of us that is more powerful, more impactful. We don't have to know exactly what it is, but it'll appear. It's sort of serendipitous, because serendipity kind of happens in ways that are so unexplainable and so incredibly insightful that it does something so extraordinary that we would never have imagined that we could have done that or made that happen. So when we get back to it, it's really about happiness and kissing and so on that we're all want to be part of. So thank you.